Chief Science Officer Crystalline Sar gazed through the observation dome of Research Station Prisma 7, her crystalline form refracting the light of the nearby volcanic planet they were studying. The planet should have been dead, its surface constantly shifting with rivers of molten rock, its atmosphere thick with toxic gases, and its gravity nearly twice that of most habitable worlds. Yet their sensors were detecting impossible readings. "Confirmed, Chief," her second-in-command Crystal Tin reported, his facets dimming with concern. "Those are artificial structures on the surface, and they're active." The Zalaxians had evolved on a world of perfect stability, a crystalline planet where change happened over millennia, not moments. Their bodies, composed of living crystal, were precisely adapted to their environment. The very idea of life surviving in such chaos made their lattices tremble with disbelief. "Show me," Sar commanded, her voice resonating through her crystalline form. The holographic display materialized, showing structures of dark metal rising from the volcanic landscape. They were ugly by Xylaxian standards. No symmetry, no perfect angles, just brutal functionality. But they were undeniably the work of an intelligent species. "We're detecting movement," Tyne reported. "Some kind of vehicles. They're traveling across the lava fields." Sar watched in fascination as the grainy image showed massive machines rolling across the hellish landscape, their heat shields deflecting the occasional splash of molten rock. How is this possible? The heat alone should melt any known metal. Their observations were interrupted by a sudden alert. Something was rising from the surface, a ship, crude but powerful, heading directly toward their research station. "They've detected us." Tyne's voice cracked with fear, his crystalline form vibrating with anxiety. "Chief, these must be Deathworlders. No other species could survive such conditions. We should leave immediately." But Sar remained still, her scientific curiosity overriding her instinctive fear. The Xylaxian Science Council had long theorized about species that could survive in extreme conditions, but they had never encountered one. This could be the discovery of the century. "Open a communication channel," she ordered. "Chief," Tyne protested. "The Council protocols specifically forbid." The protocols were written by theorists who never faced this situation. Sar cut him off. "Open the channel." The response came not in words at first, but in images. The beings inside the approaching ship were sending visual data, pictures of themselves. They were unlike anything Sar had ever seen. Instead of the elegant crystalline structures of her people, they were made of soft tissue and fluid, protected by artificial shells they called suits. They called themselves humans. As their ship drew closer, Sar received their first direct communication. "Research Station, this is Captain Sarah Chen of the Earth mining colony Vesuvius. We mean you no harm. We've been watching your station for several days and figured it was time to say hello." The voice was strange, produced by vibrating air rather than resonating crystal, but there was something in its tone that Sar found fascinating. Curiosity, perhaps. The same scientific interest that she herself felt. "I am Chief Science Officer Crystalline Sar," she responded. We did not expect to find life here. Your very existence defies our understanding of biological possibilities." A sound came through the communication channel, something the humans called laughter. "We get that a lot," Captain Chen replied. "Would you be interested in a cultural exchange? We've been hoping to make peaceful first contact with a non-human species, and you seem like scientists, like us." Sar's crystalline form sparkled with excitement, even as Tin and the rest of her crew vibrated with anxiety. These humans lived in conditions that would shatter a Xylaxian in moments, yet they spoke of peace and scientific exchange. Perhaps the old theories about Deathworlders were wrong. Perhaps strength and resilience didn't necessarily equal aggression. "Yes," Sar decided, ignoring the dissonant hum of protest from her crew. "We would be very interested in an exchange of knowledge. Though, you will have to forgive our caution. Our people are quite fragile compared to yours." "Understood completely," Chen responded warmly. We'll maintain safe distance and pressure protocols. But I think both our species have much to learn from each other. After all, the universe is too fascinating to explore alone, isn't it? In that moment, Sar realized that despite their physical differences, these humans shared something fundamental with her people, an unquenchable desire to understand the universe around them. As she watched their ship dock with infinite care to avoid damaging the station, she wondered if perhaps the greatest strength wasn't the ability to survive harsh conditions, but the wisdom to be gentle when needed. The impossible species from the volcanic world was about to change everything the Zalaxians thought they knew about life in the universe, and this was only the beginning. 3 months after first contact, the human diplomatic vessel Harmony drifted in high orbit above Crystallos, the Xylaxian homeworld. Captain Sarah Chen stood at the observation window, marveling at the geometric perfection below. The entire planet seemed to shimmer like a massive diamond, its surface arranged in precise crystalline patterns that stretched for thousands of kilometers. "It's beautiful," she whispered, "but I can see why they found us so terrifying." Ambassador Michael Rodriguez nodded beside her. Their entire evolution favored stability and precision. No plate tectonics, no significant weather patterns, no seasonal changes, just perfect, unchanging crystal. He checked his tablet. The highest natural temperature variation they experience is 3 degrees Celsius. Annual geological movement, less than a millimeter. Down on the surface, Chief Science Officer Sahar was facing the sternest challenge of her career. The Xylaxian High Council had convened in the Grand Resonance Chamber, their crystalline forms arranged in perfect hexagonal patterns as they debated the human question. "You propose an alliance with creatures who live in chaos." Counselor Prime Vitak's voice rang through the chamber, causing sympathetic vibrations in the younger crystals. "Their planet's surface rebuilds itself constantly. They consume dead matter for energy. They repair damage by growing new tissue. They are unstable at the molecular level." Sar stood firm, her own crystal structure staying perfectly still despite her anxiety. "And yet they have achieved faster than light travel. They have colonized worlds we deemed impossible. Their adaptability is not a weakness, it is a different kind of strength." The debate had raged for hours when the chamber sensors detected something unprecedented. A small asteroid, barely the size of a human shuttle, had entered the system on a collision course with Crystallos. Under normal circumstances, the Xylaxian defense systems would have pulverized it at a safe distance, but a recent solar flare had temporarily disrupted their energy grid. "Impact in 40 minutes, the defense coordinator announced. "Our backup systems cannot achieve full power in time. Even a small impact could shatter thousands of our people." Ishar immediately activated her communication link to the Harmony. "Captain Chen, we have an emergency situation." The response was immediate. "We see it. Our sensors are tracking the asteroid's trajectory. We can intercept, but we'll need clearance to enter your atmosphere." The council chamber erupted in discord. No non-Xylaxian ship had ever been permitted to enter their atmosphere. The risk of accidental damage to their crystalline cities was too great. "We don't have time for debate." Char's voice cut through the chaos. "Their ship is designed to withstand conditions far more extreme than our atmosphere. I trust them." Vitak's crystal structure vibrated with stress before emitting the harmonic that signified acceptance. "Grant them clearance. We have no choice." The human ship moved with surprising grace for something made of metal and ceramics. It intercepted the asteroid well above the critical altitude, using a combination of tractor beams and precise plasma bursts to alter the rock's trajectory. The debris was scattered harmlessly into the upper atmosphere, creating a brief but beautiful light show across the crystalline surface. When Captain Chen and her crew were invited to the surface, the first humans to ever set foot on Crystallos, they wore specially designed suits that distributed their weight and dampened their vibrations. The Xylaxians watched in fascination as these beings of flesh and blood moved with exaggerated care through their crystal cities. "Your intervention saved many lives today," Vitak admitted, his crystalline form glowing with formal gratitude. Perhaps we have been too quick to judge based on physical differences. Our differences are real, Chen replied, but they don't have to be barriers. You understand stability and precision in ways we never could. We understand adaptation and rapid response. Together, we could achieve things neither of our species could do alone. The formal alliance that emerged from that day was unprecedented. The Xylaxians began sharing their advanced crystal technology, perfect for data storage and energy transmission. The humans, in turn, taught them about flexible response systems and adaptive engineering. Special facilities were constructed where both species could interact safely. Xylaxian scientists were fascinated by human medical technology, particularly the concept of cellular regeneration. Humans were equally amazed by Xylaxian crystal computing, capable of processing data with perfect efficiency. But not everyone was pleased with this new partnership. Out in the darker regions of space, word spread of this unlikely alliance. The Ravagers, a species that had long avoided both human and Xylaxian space, saw this cooperation as a threat to their own expansion plans. They began to move their fleet, preparing for what they believed would be an easy conquest of these mismatched allies. They would soon learn just how wrong they were. The first attack came without warning. The Ravagers struck at the joint Human-Xylaxian Research Station Concordia, their ships emerging from FTL travel in a formation that immediately blocked all escape routes. Unlike the precisely geometric Xylaxian vessels or the sturdy human ships, Ravager craft were biological nightmares, massive, organ-like structures that pulsed with an unsettling rhythm. Dr. Maya Patel, the station's human director, was in the middle of a delicate experiment with her Xylaxian colleague Crystal Leth when the attack began. Their research into combining human adaptive materials with Xylaxian crystal technology was showing promising results. Multiple hostile contacts. The station's AI blared. Unknown biological signatures. Weapons detected. The station shuddered as the first shots hit their shields. Crystal Leth's form vibrated dangerously close to his resonance frequency. "We must evacuate," he chimed urgently. "The station's structure cannot withstand sustained attack." Maya quickly activated the emergency protocols they'd developed for just such a scenario. Special dampening fields engaged around the Xylaxian sections of the station, while reinforced barriers deployed to protect critical systems. "All personnel to emergency stations," she ordered. Xylaxian staff to crystal-shielded safe rooms. Human security teams to defensive positions. The Ravagers' first transmission came through on all channels, their language a guttural series of clicks and growls that the translation matrix took precious seconds to decode. "Surrender your station. Your species are incompatible. Your alliance is an abomination. Submit to separation and classification under Ravager dominion." Maya exchanged looks with Crystal Leth, whose crystalline form now glowed with a determined blue light. They had both heard of the Ravagers, a species that believed in strict categorical separation of all life forms. The idea of different species cooperating was anathema to their philosophy. "This is Research Director Maya Patel," she responded. "We reject your demands. This station is a symbol of cooperation and mutual benefit. We will defend it." The Ravager response was immediate and violent. Their ships launched boarding pods, organic missiles that literally bit into the station's hull and began dissolving it with corrosive enzymes. But they had underestimated the station's defenses. The sections they attacked were reinforced with crystal hybrid materials, developed through human-Xylaxian cooperation. The Ravagers' biological weapons couldn't easily breach these surfaces. Meanwhile, human security teams moved through the station with practiced efficiency, their weapons modified with Xylaxian crystal technology to be more effective against biological targets. Crystal Leth coordinated from the safe room, using his natural resonance with the station's crystal components to detect Ravager movements. "They're attempting to breach Section 7, he chimed. The crystal matrices indicate heavy biological activity." Maya directed her teams accordingly, using the Xylaxian sensor data to stay one step ahead of the invaders. But the Ravagers were numerous and determined. They kept coming, wave after wave, slowly wearing down the station's defenses. Main power at 40%, the AI warned. Hull integrity compromised in multiple sections. Just when the situation seemed most dire, help arrived. A joint patrol fleet of human and Xylaxian ships dropped out of FTL, their arrival precisely timed and coordinated. The human ships immediately engaged in aggressive maneuvers, drawing Ravager fire, while the Xylaxian vessels moved into perfect formation to create a crystalline energy web that trapped several enemy ships. The Ravagers, faced with this display of coordinated strength, began to retreat. Their final transmission was filled with confusion. "This is not possible. You cannot work together. You are too different." "That's exactly why we're strong," Maya transmitted back. "Our differences complement each other. We understand what you never will, that diversity breeds resilience." As the enemy ships fled, Maya and Crystal Leth began assessing the damage to their station. The attack had proved something they had theorized, but never tested. Their alliance wasn't just about scientific cooperation. Together, they could fight. Together, they could defend themselves. But this was only the beginning. The Ravagers would return, and next time they would come in greater numbers. The human-Xylaxian alliance would need to prepare, to combine their knowledge and strengths in new ways. As Maya helped Crystal Leth stabilize his resonance after the stress of battle, she realized that the very research they had been conducting before the attack might be the key to their survival. "We need to accelerate our crystal hybrid research," she said. "The Ravagers think our differences make us weak. Let's show them how wrong they are." Crystal Leth's form pulsed with agreement. "Indeed. Perhaps it is time to share some of our more experimental theories with the defense councils." The Ravagers had meant to prove that different species couldn't work together. Instead, they had only succeeded in making the human-Xylaxian alliance stronger. The real war was coming, and both species were now more determined than ever to prove that their unlikely partnership was not just possible, it was the future. The Joint Defense Initiative headquarters on Europa buzzed with activity. 6 months had passed since the Ravager attack on Station Concordia, and both humans and Xylaxians had been working tirelessly to prepare for the inevitable larger invasion. Captain Sarah Chen, now promoted to fleet commander, stood before a holographic display showing the latest breakthrough in their combined technology. Beside her, Chief Science Officer Sar's crystalline form refracted the blue light of the hologram as they presented to the Joint Military Council. "The Crystalline Adaptive Defense System, CADS for short," Chen explained. "It combines Xylaxian crystal technology with human biomimetic engineering. Watch this." The demonstration showed a new type of ship armor. When struck by enemy fire, instead of just absorbing or deflecting the impact, the crystal structure actually reformed itself, becoming stronger at the point of impact. It was like human tissue healing, but at a molecular level using Xylaxian crystal properties. "Impossible," one of the Xylaxian counselors chimed. "Our crystals cannot change their structures so rapidly." "That's where you're wrong," Sar resonated proudly. "We've been thinking about our crystals the way we think about ourselves, as entities that require perfect stability. But working with humans has taught us that controlled change can be a form of stability." The evidence was undeniable. Initial tests showed that ships equipped with CADS could withstand 3 times the damage of conventional vessels. But this was just the beginning of their innovations. Dr. Maya Patel and Crystal Leth had taken their research in a different direction. In a specialized laboratory designed to accommodate both species, they demonstrated their project to a select committee. "We call them resonance weapons," Maya explained, holding up what looked like a standard human rifle modified with crystalline components. "They use Xylaxian harmonic principles to disrupt the biological ships of the Ravagers. One shot can cascade through their organic hulls, causing systematic failure." Crystal Leth's form pulsed with electromagnetic excitement. The humans' understanding of biological systems helped us realize how to turn our crystalline harmonics into an offensive capability, something we never would have considered on our own. But perhaps the most revolutionary development came in the form of the new joint combat teams. Humans, with their quick reflexes and adaptable thinking, were paired with Zalaxian tactical analyzers who could process battlefield data through their crystal neural networks at incredible speeds. Special suits were developed allowing Zalaxians to safely accompany human forces into combat, their crystal structures protected while their unique abilities were put to use. Commander Rodriguez, now leading the joint military forces, watched a training exercise where these teams demonstrated their capabilities. Human soldiers moved with practiced precision, while their Zalaxian partners provided real-time tactical data and energy support through crystalline transmitters. "They said we couldn't work together," Rodriguez remarked to SAR as they observed. "Look at them now. Your people's precision combined with our adaptability. It's creating something entirely new." SAR's crystalline form shimmered with what humans had learned to recognize as pride. "We are no longer simply two species cooperating. We are becoming something more, a true synthesis of our strengths." But their preparations were tested sooner than expected. Long-range sensors detected a massive Ravager fleet assembling at the edge of human space. This force dwarfed the one that had attacked Station Concordia. "They're not just coming to destroy an outpost this time," Chen announced to the Joint Council. "This is a full invasion fleet. They mean to end our alliance permanently." The council chamber resonated with both human voices and Zalaxian harmonics as they discussed their response. Their new technologies were still largely untested in full combat. Their joint teams, while promising, had never faced a real enemy. Yet there was no fear in the chamber. Instead, there was a steady determination that seemed to bridge the gap between crystalline precision and human passion. They had spent 6 months preparing for this moment, combining the best aspects of both their species. "Let them come," Rodriguez declared, his voice firm. "Every attack they've made has only proven how strong we are together. This time, we're ready for them." SAR's crystal structure aligned in the pattern that humans had learned meant absolute agreement. Indeed, the Ravagers believe that differences make us weak. We will show them how differences make us invincible. As the orders went out and the combined fleet began to mobilize, there was a sense among both species that they were about to prove something fundamental about the nature of strength in the universe. It wasn't about being the biggest or the most numerous. It wasn't about biological superiority or technological advancement. True strength, they had learned, came from the ability to bridge differences and create something greater than the sum of its parts. The coming battle would prove it to the entire galaxy. The combined human-Zalaxian fleet hung in formation at the edge of the Sol system, a stunning display of both species' engineering. Crystalline ships arranged in perfect geometric patterns shared space with more rugged human vessels, their new hybrid armor gleaming under the distant sunlight. Fleet Commander Chen watched from the bridge of the flagship Unity as the massive Ravager fleet dropped out of FTL travel. Their biological ships darkened the stars like a swarm of angry insects, easily outnumbering the Allied forces 3-1. "They're transmitting," her communications officer reported. The Ravager Supreme Commander's voice filled the bridge, a harsh mixture of clicks and growls. "Your abomination of an alliance ends today. Surrender now, and we will preserve your species separately, as nature intended." Chen glanced at her Zalaxian second-in-command, Crystal Vorn, whose crystalline form pulsed with battle readiness. "Shall we show them what nature really intended, old friend?" The Zalaxian's response chimed clear. "Indeed, nature intended us to evolve, to adapt, to become more than we were alone." The battle began with a Ravager assault designed to split the Allied fleet apart. They had studied the previous encounters and believed they had found the weakness in the alliance, the need to protect the more fragile Zalaxian ships while accommodating the humans' more aggressive tactics. But they were unprepared for what they faced. The crystalline adaptive defense system proved its worth immediately. As Ravager bioweapons struck the Allied ships, the crystal hybrid armor didn't just resist. It adapted, growing stronger with each hit. The Zylaxian vessels, arranged in their precise formations, created massive energy webs that trapped and dissected enemy ships, while human vessels darted through the gaps with impossible precision, their crews guided by Zylaxian tactical analyzers. On the ground, the battle for Mars colony demonstrated the true power of their cooperation. When Ravager forces managed to land, they faced joint human-Zylaxian combat teams. Human soldiers moved with practiced aggression, their resonance weapons devastating the Ravager's biological technology, while their Zylaxian partners provided perfect tactical coordination through their crystal networks. The tide turned when the Ravagers launched their secret weapon, a massive organic ship that generated energy fields designed to disrupt both crystal structures and organic matter. They believed it would disable both species equally. Instead, it presented the perfect opportunity for the Alliance to prove its true strength. Execute Protocol Unity, Chen ordered. The human ships formed a protective barrier around their Zylaxian allies, their hybrid armor absorbing the disruptive energy. Meanwhile, the Zylaxian vessels aligned into a perfect crystalline array, channeling their combined energy through the human fleet's modified systems. The result was spectacular. The unified blast of crystal-enhanced energy tore through the Ravager flagship, its biological hull unable to adapt to the combined technologies it faced. As their command ship fell, the Ravager fleet's coordination began to crumble. "Your philosophy is flawed," Chen transmitted to the failing Ravager fleet. "Strength doesn't come from separation and purity. It comes from combination and growth. Surrender, and let us prove it to you." The battle ended not with the destruction of the Ravager fleet, but with something far more significant: their surrender and request to understand. A species that had believed so firmly in separation and categorization had been forced to confront the evidence that cooperation bred strength. In the aftermath, as human medical technology helped heal damaged Zylaxian crystal structures, and Zylaxian precision helped rebuild devastated human colonies, both species reflected on how far they had come. From that first fearful meeting above a volcanic world, they had forged something unprecedented in the galaxy, a true symbiosis of different evolutionary paths. The Ravagers, under the terms of their surrender, began to learn. Many of their scientists, once exposed to the possibilities of cooperative development, became eager students of the human Zylaxian techniques. Their biological technology, they discovered, could be enhanced by both human adaptability and Zylaxian precision. Standing on the observation deck of Unity, Chen and Crystal Vorn watched the sunrise over Earth, its light refracting brilliantly through the Zylaxian's crystalline form. "They called us an abomination," Chen mused. "They couldn't see that our differences were exactly what made us strong." Crystal Vorn chimed in agreement. "Perhaps that is the greatest lesson we can teach the galaxy. That strength comes not from enforcing separation, but from embracing combination." As they spoke, a new ship class was being unveiled in the orbital shipyards, one that perfectly combined human, Zylaxian, and now rehabilitated Ravager technology. It stood as a symbol of what was possible when different species chose to work together rather than apart. The stars beckoned, and for the first time, they would be explored not by separate species fearful of their differences, but by allies who had learned to turn those very differences into their greatest strength.